Hey guys, welcome. This is the first side note we get to do kind of as part of the main body of the text. We're going through the life of Solomon, and I wanted to introduce you to this group here. Brainypixel puts out a whole ton of content, and boy, years ago, the guys there approached me with this comic. I ended up backing it, and I promoted it a few times through the years. But I want to incorporate it here into the lecture of Ecclesiastes because if you are looking for quality content that's going to tell some of these stories, this is great. This is a great way to kind of go through it. So I want to explain it really quick. Chronicles of Faith. It's going through David and his life and some of the things that he went through. And so I'll remove myself from the screen altogether and let you guys see what's going on here. Chronicles of Faith, again, like I said, goes through David. It's covering his life here. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, so I'm not going to show you every frame. But I love this kind of front piece that they do, and it's David, again, kind of sitting in his trophy room, so to speak, and his son Solomon is there kind of doing his own thing. And it's interesting because you can see a lot of items that David would have collected in his life, and if David's like any of us, he probably did have some cool things in his collection. But what's fascinating is David is here telling Solomon some of the victories that he would have gone through. And I want you to pay attention to that because I think as we get into the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiastes is really an offshoot, I believe, of Solomon having watched his father do things. And then Solomon in his wisdom, and sometimes not, Solomon is kind of following up on some of those things that went on in David's life. And so again, here you've got, David telling him about taking down the bear and taking down the lion and the several stones. And you've got the Gilgal stones referenced down here in the corner. And again, it's David recounting the faithfulness of God. And if you study the scriptures and if you follow through from Joshua to Judges and all of that, what you will find is that a generation only stays faithful typically as long as they have a strong leader who's faithful and as long as the people who served under that strong leader are still around. Once that ends and once those strong leaders pass on, the people start wandering. And so David is drawing attention to the fact that even a guy like Joshua, he laid out those stones. And that was meant to be a memorial so that there would be a group of people who would come along afterward and they would start looking at things like these stones and go, why are those there? And so it's kind of neat that these little snippets are brought back in. Again, the art style is really cool too. I like it. But again, Solomon is there talking with David. They're just kind of recounting some of the experiences he went through. And I can almost picture as Solomon teaches Ecclesiastes, if some of these memories aren't what are in his head, the lion and the bear and certain things that his dad went through. Because Solomon is going to come and say, there's this king who does this, and there's the justice is not there in the seat of justice, and who knows how many of those stories he got from his dad, how many he learned from experience, how many were things he directly witnessed himself. And so this is a story of, David with Saul, and here you've got a king who will no longer be admonished. And that's something where Solomon will use this illustration and say, you have this poor kid who comes, from nowhere to rule, but there's this old king who won't be admonished anymore. And what do you get with Saul? But that. Now we don't know. We don't know that's exactly the case. But again, it's an interesting connection as you start putting this stuff together. I find it fascinating with the guys here at Brainypixel when they do this work. They dig into the mindset of Saul. And again, we know the story. We know some of the things Saul did in his life, but I love how they just work it in the background. It's all this dialogue. It's all this talking, like kind of his self-doubt and guilt and shame. And really, you kind of wonder, because the Bible talks about this evil spirit from the Lord that would come on Saul and torment him. And you just got to wonder what that was like. He just playing over the words of Samuel in his head. Again, it's just, this is a really, really cool little graphic novel. And so if you get a chance to pick it up, again, it's very well done. It kind of goes through a lot of that story. I'm moving rather quickly because I don't want you to see it all. But again, Saul was not a man of It's just rough. It's a sad story as you see Saul, and as you go through the life of David. He's so much different than Saul. It's fascinating as you study David. One of the things that really sets him apart is as a man after God's own heart. David is one of those guys who, when he is rebuked for his sin, he immediately repents. He doesn't try to justify it. He doesn't try to make excuses for it. But with Saul, what does Saul do? He makes up excuses. And he's very passionate, and he's very emotionally controlled. And so, again, if you're looking for content for your kids, if you're looking for content that just kind of supplement your understanding of the scriptures, I do think this is a good series. I think it's worth picking up. They've got a kind of a prequel, and I think they've got one after it as well. They put out some really good material. And so, guys, I would suggest as we continue through this material, spend some time studying the life of David, spend some time studying the life of Solomon. And a lot of these things in Ecclesiastes will start to make more sense. You can see why when we say Solomon was the one who wrote this, he had understanding in a lot of these areas. He had experience. He went through a few things in his life that really made him struggle. And so again, I'll put a link in the description for Brainypixel stuff, and you can follow up with them. And again, good content here, and I'm glad to be able to help them out and promote this material. But again, this little side note, if you guys want to add your own side note, then please tune into whatever video it is you need answered. Leave a comment below, and just let them know, let me know, and I'll try to follow up with that. I'll see you guys next time.